This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. News and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson. Yes, I'm your host, Harry Wilkinson, and welcome once again to another segment of the Spirit and Wellness Show. On today's show, we're going to be continuing our talking about stress and ways to mitigate and deal with stress, healthy ways to deal with stress through health activities, the things you eat, and so forth and so on. We are also going to talk about or continue our conversation on string theory and the discovery of the Higgs boson and what that means. And we're also going to have a brief look at today's news and events. But first I want to mention pardon me. First I want to mention something that I've been getting a lot of comments on from the last show, which was my discussion of the Pope's recent comments from about a week and a half ago in May, in which he embraced atheists and those who believe differently, saying that they should be judged by their works and not by whether or not they belong to a particular church. This has set quite a firestorm of controversy among some traditional religious folk, and has sort of heartened a lot of cynics, skeptics, and so forth, including atheists. And I just want to clarify, because I've spoken a lot about this, and you know that on this show we talk about how spirituality is not anything like religion at all. Spirituality is a basic, fundamental human nature that infuses everything. It's found in science. It's found in education. It's found in everything we do. Spirituality is our connection with, for want of a better word, the great mystery that is around us, that is us, essentially. And in our attempts to understand this mystery, understand basically that which cannot ever be fully understood, we have created all kinds of things. In the early days of man, we attempted to understand these things or connect with these things through gods of some kind or other, through storytelling, mythology that were created to help explain or at least integrate the mysterious things around us and try to at least make some sense of them. And we continue to do that ever since. Every religion, and that includes science, because what I'm going to say here is that science has become a religion of sorts. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. But every religion and every belief system is our fumbling way of trying to understand and know that which is essentially unknowable. And that unknowable thing is what some have chosen to call, God. And so all of these approaches to this have sprung up, of course, as ways of dealing with that and ways of understanding that. Now, the reason I say that science is a new religion, and not necessarily new, but it is a religion, is that it does require of its adherents strict belief. There are dogmas in science. The dogma of research and scientific method. Nothing is true in science until you have done these rigorous scientific procedures. Now, the fact of the matter is that science doesn't know very much. Science shows us how things work to a certain degree. But as much as we know through scientific research, there is twice, 3 times or more much that we don't understand. And science is always changing, and yet we are to believe that if science says something is true, that it is unequivocally true. In much the same way that if the Pope says something is true, if you are a Catholic, it is unequivocally true because the Pope is infallible. Well, in many ways, science believes itself to be infallible. Science, at its best, as I said, shows us how things work. However, our limited understanding changes. So nothing can be completely true in science. And as you'll see from our discussion as we get into talking about string theory and such, the basic belief system that is based on an atomistic approach to physics and the belief in the theory of relativity. Those are the holy grail, if you will, of how science believes the world works. We are finding out isn't necessarily so. A friend of mine said to me, in a kind of joking way the other day, what if you woke up one day and they had repealed the law of gravity? Well, that's kind of what's going on today in these new developments, and particularly with the discovery of Higgs boson, which is actually leading to more questions than answers. But what I'm trying to say is that we turn to religion, we turn to science, and atheists have their own religion. It's the religion of non-belief, but it's as structured and as dogmatic a religion as anything else. If you happen to believe that there's something beyond your physical body, that there's something beyond what we are seeing and perceiving right now, then you're some kind of an idiot. That's the basic approach of the atheist. So, they have their dogma as well. And I'm saying that we all need to be patient with each other because none of us knows anything. And all of these things are fumbling ways, as I've said, to know the unknowable. And so we need to have patience with each other as each of us finds or uses different ways to fumble through this reality, or non-reality, if you will. And none of us knows. So why would you criticize a person for taking one approach, one way of trying to understand or know the unknowable, as opposed to another way? These are the kinds of things that are deeply rooted in us, and these are the kinds of things that cause the conflicts and tension in the world. There's a tendency to blame religion and religious hardcore zealots, if you will, for the wars, particularly in the Middle East. A lot of railing against Muslims and that sort of thing. Railing about the Jews and the Arabs and their belief system. And while, yes, there are certainly religious elements to all of those things, the basic element is that we have problems with our tolerance of other people trying to find their way to understand the world. And we feel negated if somebody else believes the world works a different way. What science tries to do is to say there is this objective reality, and this is how the world works. And while we do find key things as to the way the world works that work for a while, that changes because reality changes. And even quantum physics is showing us that reality changes based on how we perceive it and what we are creating. We'll talk about that as we get into more of this string theory stuff. So anyway, all I'm trying to say is that nobody knows for sure. We can only go on what our intuition tells us, what our, if you want to talk about a divine spark or just an inner guidance or just a sense of common wisdom, we can only go by that which serves us the best as far as getting through our lives and making the best of understanding what ultimately will never be completely understood. So what the Pope is doing is basically validating that. And by doing so, he's gone beyond religion and has touched upon spirituality. And I always applaud, particularly the religious people who have the hardest time in many ways doing this, breaking loose of religion's restrictions and acknowledging spirituality. And acknowledging spirituality as something that goes beyond the structure of a given church or set of laws. So there you have it. I hope that clarifies my point of view on these things, and I applaud the Pope's efforts in trying to deal with what is a very a very tricky topic to talk about. But hey, we do that on this show all the time, don't we? All right. Now, I want to move on now to talk a little bit about our stress relief section here, because I believe that I haven't been able to put as much time in it on our half-hour shows as I'd like, so I want to lead with that so we can really address some of these activities I want to tell you about, because I'm always running out of time and not able to get these things in. So we talked about last time about how breathing exercises help you to relieve your stress. And so I mentioned it very briefly, and I want to just go into it a little bit more. The idea of breathing meditations is to follow your breath. And your breath, while the process of taking in air and breathing it out, also physically reduces your stress and tension. It also puts you into a frame of mind that lightens you, puts you above your whatever your stressful situation might be. So last week I mentioned two basic ways that you do this. You sit comfortably with your back straight and your eyes lightly closed, and you might want to use loose clothing. You can loosen your clothing if you're not in a place where you can change your clothes. If you can change, you might want to change into something like sweats or shorts or something like that. And then you focus your attention on your breathing, and you just follow it as it goes up into the chest and out. And note the changes, note how you feel. That's the beginning of it. Now, effective breathing comes through the diaphragm. So in other words, we have a tendency to breathe in and take in air that fills up our chest and then let it out. But a more powerful way to breathe, especially for relaxation, is to breathe into your diaphragm. So as you breathe in, your diaphragm naturally expands. And then as you breathe out, your diaphragm moves in towards your spine. So, this change from breathing into your chest into breathing into your diaphragm is also a very good meditation. You can begin to notice the change of your breath going into your diaphragm and coming out. And you can focus on the breath going up through the nostrils and coming back down into the abdomen. Now, another approach to breathing for relaxation is what's known as the 4-7-8 breath, which we've talked about on the show before, but it bears repeating. So basically what 4-7-8 is about is you breathe in for 4 counts. You hold the breath for 7 counts. And you breathe out for 8. 4-7-8. That's the basic approach to it. And you can do it, once, twice a day. You can do it every day. You know, breathing is one of those great things that you can do anywhere. And you'll be surprised, I think, if you haven't done it already. You'll be surprised at what a difference it truly makes in dealing with stress, anxiety, all of those issues. I, who have been prone in the past to anxiety attacks, have found remarkable results just by sitting with whatever the attack is at the time and breathing through it. So it's something I highly recommend. Now, there are natural ways, supplements that you can use to deal with stress. And some of them are herbal, some of them are vitamins. One that's been highlighted, and is highlighted today in Dr. Weil's website, drweil.com. Dr. Weil's Dr. Andrew Weil, who is a well-known doctor and advocate for alternative approaches and sort of a combination of alternative and traditional healthcare approaches to help people live happier, more healthy lives. So he's very good at integrating spirituality and alternative medicine into traditional approaches, and he's at the forefront of that. So, yeah, drweil.com, great website to turn to for a lot of this information. And he's talking about passion flower for stress. Passion flower is an herb. I'm going to see if I can pronounce the actual name of it. Passiflora incarnata. Passiflora incarnata. And he says the dried above ground parts of the plant can be found in tincture and extract form. And you would find that at a store that specializes in this sort of thing. GNC, Vitamin Shop. Dr. Weil has a store on his website, I think, where you can probably obtain those things online. He recommends looking for capsules or extracts containing no less than 0.8% flavonoids. And apparently you can use passion flower for stress reduction, calming without sedation, in other words, without having to take a medication. and relief from insomnia. So if you're having trouble sleeping, it can help you go to sleep. Apparently, one dropful in a little warm water, or if you're not using tincture, if you're using capsules, 2 capsules 4 times a day, as needed, can have apparently some very good results. He cautions against taking it if you are using MAO inhibitors, antidepressant drugs, or if you are pregnant, because apparently the compounds can be stimulants to the uterine. So that's something interesting. I have not used passion flower. I cannot recommend it because I haven't used it, and I can't vouch for its effects, but I can vouch for Dr. Weil being a very thorough and very reliable source on these sorts of things. And he always gives you the best information on all of these things that's available. So that's one way to deal with it. Other supplements for stress are vitamin B complex, and that's readily available in just about any supermarket these days. They help balance the mood, calm the nervous system, and if you are taking antidepressants of some kind, they can help increase their effectiveness, and that's something I didn't realize. Omega-3s are also a great way to relieve anxiety and depression. That I can definitely testify to. And taking omega-3s has really helped me with a lot of stress and anxiety issues. Valerian, this is another flowering root, and the essential oils help people deal with stress with that. Calcium and magnesium, again, something very readily available in grocery stores these days. And these are to help with muscle relaxation. And if you're having trouble sleeping, it can help you relax your muscles. Now, St. John's wort, there's been a lot of controversy around, but much of it is not accurate. It has been shown to boost mood and maintain healthy emotional outlook. And again, there's a lot of talk about vitamins not working these days. And just like in science, as we're about to talk about the resistance to new ways of approaching physics, whenever there's a new way that sort of contradicts the traditional way that the medical profession has done things for years, there's always resistance to it. So a lot of the stories say that, more than half of Americans take supplements. There's little or no evidence that they actually improve health or help to lower the risk of chronic disease. But now the fact is that the studies on which these articles are based are very often flawed. And this is what you don't know when you hear these reports. You don't know what the science behind it is. You don't know what kind of vitamins they're using. You don't know, because the length of time that vitamins work is different for just about every person. The fact of the matter is, I don't think, scientific research knows how to examine whether vitamins are working or not, because their methods are geared towards a medicinal approach. In other words, the traditional medicine, how long does it take, what are the observable benefits and so forth. And vitamins, in many cases, just don't work that way. In Dr. Weil's view, this is what Dr. Weil has to say, the value of antioxidant vitamins has been scientifically demonstrated beyond any reasonable doubt by the preponderance of studies showing benefits. And by antioxidants, he means B complex, vitamin C, omega-3s, all of those things, and multivitamins. So vitamin supplements are important, and try not to worry about these reports. The idea that vitamins could be harmful for you is practically non-existent. It just depends on how much you take and so forth and so on. But all right, we're coming up on last few minutes of the show here, so I want to get into the first, or maybe the second part of our discussion. We were talking about string theory, and basically what string theory says, which is often called the theory of everything, is that the universe works via vibrations, and these vibrations are carried along through what's known as strings. And there are a number of different string theories that are around. But basically, string theory tries to unite quantum physics with the theory of relativity, which is the traditional approach. And what we're finding basically is that the universe works a lot differently than was believed for a very long time. The reason why we are believing this is because it's these unseen elements, these tiny particles that we really can't see but we know are there, which are creating, changing our reality, if you will. So, basically, string theory tries to attempt four forces in the universe. Tries to unify, four forces in the universe. The electromagnetic force, the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, and gravity. And it's this attempt to make a unified theory that gives birth to string theory and has fueled the search for the Higgs boson. The reason why is that it's fairly well known that the traditional model, the particle model of physics, doesn't work. The math isn't adding up, and what scientists have to do is fudge the math to get it to fit into the traditional approach to physics. So now we've searched for this Higgs boson and discovered it. So what does that mean? Well, for string theory, it will certainly mean it lends more weight to that theory. So people have asked, why is Higgs boson called the God particle? Well, basically the Higgs boson is supposed to be the largest boson, and a boson is a massless particle in physics. That is an invisible force field, and basically it turns energy into matter. You can think of it as similar to the Force in Star Wars. It's this energy that permeates everything, connects everything, but can't be seen, but is part of everything, and we are part of it. And if there is a better description of the idea of God, I sure don't know what it is. So I have a lot of information here on the Higgs boson and the discovery of it and what it means, and we're going to talk about this more and more through our episodes, and how that is changing what our belief system is, and how science is becoming, in many instances, quite mystical. In any case, the lines between religion and science are finally evaporating, I believe. So, until next time, keep your energy high, Try not to stress too much. And come back next week. Have a great week.